What's up, Kevin? Welcome to the show.
How you doing? Great to be on. Thanks for having me.
I am fantastic. Other than the Oregon weather is still cold and windy and
Yeah.
rainy, and looking forward to hunting season, which is
I know,
only like
right?
you know, I don't know how many months away. But I appreciate you coming on today. Now you're in Utah somewhere.
Yep. Just east of Park City. My wife and I we kind of picked up shop, moved out here when I retired, and now we're living in the mountains.
Are you guys big snow people?
I am. I don't know if she has fully accepted it yet, but it's coming from living in Boston. Like I think you're probably aware, but like just like next to the coast, the snow is so much different than in the mountains. So I think she's getting used to it, and it's drier and it's not as gross. And I don't know. I really love it. And I think she's taken to it.
Yeah. So she did. You guys, you grew up in California, if I remember
Yep.
correctly, like San something,
Santa
San
Clarita. Yeah,
Santa Cruz.
we both grew up together. We both went to junior high and high school together. Started dating in high
Whoa.
school, and been broke up for a little bit there, and then rekindled after my freshman year of college, and we've been together pretty much ever.
Whoa, that's insane.
Yeah,
That's like statistically very improbable.
yeah. I'm a lucky guy.
Yeah, you are, man.
Yeah.
So she did she go to the same college as you?
Nope. So we actually, so I went to University of Vermont, which was, obviously I moved out of California when I was 15. I went back for boarding school. And then that's when we initially broke up. And then I went to University of Vermont. I was coming home every summer to kind of train and whatnot for hockey. And then she ended up going to Chico State, which is in Northern California. And then
Oh yeah.
we did long distance there for about 4.5 years. And then after that, she moved to Well, I was in Providence, so I played a couple of years in the minors. She moved out my second year, and then I got called up to the Bruins from there, and then we've been together ever since.
Now, obviously, hockey is a big part of your life. Did you start playing when you were super young?
Yeah, it's I started playing when I was 5, almost 6 years old. My older brother, I got an older brother, younger brother, and we were playing. We just moved in this new place, and we were playing roller hockey. And our next door neighbor down the street was like, "Hey guys, I play ice. Like, you guys want to try it?" My dad was a football player, had never had, we had no experience with it whatsoever. So I picked it up when I was 5, and I don't, I was pretty fortunate. I knew right away that's what I wanted to do. So ever since I was 5
Really?
years old, like I knew that was my thing. So
Is now just for the audience and for you to know, I'm totally ignorant about hockey.
yeah,
I don't watch it.
yeah,
I've been to one game in my life physically, and I've tried to watch it a few times. I never played it, so it's hard for me to follow. Although I do like watching the action for sure. But
yeah.
in California, is there a hockey culture? Like, is it
No, like that was the kind of the cool thing. I think I'm a pro, like a lot of guys, and like a lot of guys that came out of California. We were basically a product of like Wayne Gretzky moving to LA.
mm,
So like when he moved to LA, like rinks were going up everywhere. There's big like LA Kings buzz, and everyone was just kind of like the cool thing to do at the time.
yep.
And then that kind of rolled into. I was just fortunate that was kind of what was going on at the time, and then just took a liking to it at a young age, and like I said, I just knew that was what I wanted to do, and that's kind of why I left at a young age. That in California, there's kind of a plateau where you get to as far as developmental wise, and so you have to go to different places. And I moved back east, and I went to boarding school in Western Mass.
Were you always pretty athletic? You look like an athletic dude. You probably could have played football or anything and been pretty good at it.
We like my older brother, young, we always kind of played a bunch of stuff. Like I grew up, like soccer was another big passion of mine, so I basically played it all the way up through prep school, and just kind of got to the point where hockey was always like my number one. And but yeah, I played a couple of different sports, and I don't know, I'm into the team sports thing.
Yeah, but you knew you wanted to be a professional athlete, and then as soon as you had discovered hockey specifically, that's what you wanted to do,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
which is a long shot for a kid living in Southern California. Uh,
I had a lot of help. Like I think, I just had a lot of things kind of go right. There's a lot of things that didn't go right that led me to decisions of going there. Like I was cut from every team. I've been cut from 1,000 teams. So it's like, and I think you could talk to any professional athlete, they probably have the same story, a lot of the same stories where there was like some adversity they have to kind of come to terms with, and they get better because of it. And next thing you know, so that was kind of one of, part of my story.
So you obviously developed, you started playing on this ice. Was this like a rink
Yep.
in the area? Okay, so you start playing, you realize you could probably get pretty good at it. And then what's the road that takes you to get to D1? Because obviously, I mean, I was a golfer. I was a
Yeah.
state champion golfer,
Yeah.
and pretty good at it at the state level. But the difference between that and Division 1 is like, crazy. And then the difference between Division 1 and pro is even more crazy.
Yeah.
So how did you know you were good enough to go into attack the D1 thing?
So it was, so when I went back to boarding school, I mean, just from where I was in California, the step from like travel hockey in California to boarding school in Western Mass, like basically a hockey academy, if you will. That was a big step up. So I get there. I was actually cut from the varsity team, played JV my junior year. It's like a big developmental year, recruiting year for college, and but I realized I was close, and so started working on my game and whatnot, and then was fortunate to get an offer after my third year in high school there. I actually ended up doing 5 years of high school. There's a thing called post grad year back east, and so I stuck around rather than going to juniors.
Is that just is that just to develop you more before you go
pretty
to college?
much, yeah, pretty much. Like, because there's options, right? With hockey, it's you can go. There's a few different routes to go to get to college. There's like a junior route. There's prep school. There's actually like a major junior in Canada. There's all these different stuff. So, and my parents wanted me to get a good education, and so we chose a boarding school route. But did a fifth year there, and then was fortunate to get invited to go to the University of Vermont. And so I mean, that was just another, like you said, that's just another step up. And I think at each step, you just kind of, I think you just realize that, hey, I'm not that far off, and that if I continue to grow, like in your career, grow in your profession, if you will, or your skill, like that, you're not that far off. So, and every step is a big step, but when you realize that, when you get around those guys that like, hey, I'm not that far off, it's motivation to kind of
The is it the same in hockey, to where the difference between someone that's great and someone that's good is actually pretty small, but it's really hard to break that,
to close that gap.
Yeah,
for sure, it's the same. It just gets. And it's in hockey and in football or whatever, team sport, there's like specialized positions, right? Where like guys have just this, they're just this much better in this category. And so, you kind of realize that, hey, I'm not going to be a 50 goal scorer. I'm probably not going to center. I'm a defenseman. I'm not going to score a lot of points. And so like, I'm going to focus on this part of my game to make me this much better than the next guy at that. So, yeah, I start to realize that as you get older, you get into college, that, hey, this is kind of the, my college coach had that conversation with me, like, listen, man, like, you're not going to be on the power play, but you'll kill a lot of penalties, and there's a lot of guys that make a lot of money doing what you're doing. So that was a great, helpful conversation, and kind of realized at that point that if I wanted to pursue this, that I needed to specialize a little bit.
So what was your specialization?
So I was basically defensive defenseman. Yeah. So I don't score a lot, killed a lot of penalties, finished my hits, played, it'd be hard to play against.
And for us that don't know what killing penalties is, because we're ignorant to hockey.
Yep.
What does that actually mean?
So when the hockey, when you get a penalty, you go on from 5-on-5 to 5-on-4. So you're killing penalties. You're basically in zone, and you're trying to keep your puck out of the net. Obviously, you're blocking shots. You're hard to play against. You're got a good stick, and so yeah, it's a little bit specialized.
So you're in a very physical position.
Yeah,
I mean, it's all physical, obviously,
Yep.
but your body has taken a lot of damage.
It has, for sure. Yep, and that was I kind of knew that going into it, and I definitely feel it coming out of it.
Yeah,
but
go ahead.
No, it's part of. I mean, it's part of pro sports, and some guys wear it more than others. And that was, in my position, I wore it a lot. And we can get into. I think we will, but like, that was one of the reasons why I got out of hockey, because I had 4 knee surgeries, and It just couldn't do it anymore.
Right. Uh, what point in in hockey culture does the fighting come in? Is that something that exists in the young hockey, like in the youth hockey stuff, or when does that come in?
It's always been a part of it. And when I was growing up, we used to locker box all the time, and like that means like you're not on skates, you got your helmets on and your gloves, and like you're 8 years old, and like you're throwing trying to beat up your buddy in the locker room in your gear. And it's like you don't do that anymore, obviously, but
Right.
like, and so it's unfortunate because I think it pushes off until you're older, and then you get it when you're older and you're fighting a man that you've never fought before, and like then injuries can happen. But I think it's just a part of the culture, and I think it's a good part of the culture. And
Explain that. Why is it a good part of the culture? And I enjoy watching it too. So I'm
yeah,
not saying
so
it's not.
it's weird. It's such a weird, and it's like very deep rooted, and like there's a huge part of this, but like here's the like 1 mile view
Okay.
of it, right? Is that fighting in hockey keeps the game honest, and it keeps other players honest. So if I'm on one team and you're on another, and I'm not say I'm not a fighter, but I finish my check on you and you're the goal scorer on the other team, right? And I target you. And in the old, like hockey culture was, okay, that means next shift when I'm playing against somebody who is basically an enforcer or a guy that's going to make sure that I hold, make sure that I hold me accountable. He comes out and challenges me to a fight because I hit you, one of my, you're one of the goal scorers, right? So he comes out and challenges me to a fight. And at that point, like, I can either say no, or the guy's going to basically jump me, right? So it holds me accountable to the guys, like, um, kind of protecting certain guys on the team. And consequently, there's less concussions, there's less injuries, there's less, it's a part of the game. And so when you get rid of that, it makes it so guys can take liberties against guys they shouldn't be taking those against. And you see guys that, in the old days wouldn't get hit, like a guy like Sidney Crosby, one of the best guys in the league. I mean, he's been hit pretty hard over his career. And if he was born 10 years earlier, I think he would maybe have less head injuries, less injuries. And so it's just kind of like a part of the hockey culture where there's enforcers, if you will, that kind of police the game without really saying it.
Has it? You're making it sound like it's changed a lot. Like
It has.
there's more rules around it now.
Yeah, it has. So like it used to be just guys would square up. It's a 5-minute penalty. You get in the box. But if say you and you go and you hit a guy on my team, and I come up to you and basically don't give you the option, like, hey, we're going to fight. It's not long. It's no longer a 5-minute penalty. It's a 2, a 10, and a 5. So you're in the box for 17 minutes. It's like an instigator penalty,
Oh,
and then
geez.
you get the 5 minutes again. So it changes the game now. Like we have to agree to fight in order for it to be worthwhile for me to come and like challenge you. Because if we fight and I just jump you, like you get 5 minutes, I get 17, I'm in the box for half the game. And so
Gotcha.
it just changes the whole. They thought that, in my opinion, they thought they were making the game safer. In my opinion, they've made it more dangerous.
That's a really interesting take.
It is.
I've never thought of it this way.
It is.
I always thought it was just something that, it's kind of grandfathered in. It's just part of
Yeah.
the culture. Plus the crowd enjoys it. They get all
Yeah.
pumped up, so it's a moneymaker
Yeah.
for people. I never thought of it as actually an accountability measure for people.
It is. It's always been that way. It's like it's always been that it's part of the culture, but it's like policing without saying it.
Hmm.
And it keeps your stars on your team more healthy. It prevents guys from taking liberties against guys they shouldn't. And I think the general public and our culture in general has got away from, I guess, violence, if you will, in a little bit. And that's just the way the world's going. It is what it is. But at the same time, I think they're like trying to protect guys from getting concussions. In the meantime, they're creating more.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So if I hit a guy in a game,
Yeah.
I kind of know that most likely is going to come back at me.
For the most part. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm willing to take that risk for
Yeah.
whatever, whatever I'm doing in that moment.
Yeah. That's part of it.
And it always has bugged me, not bugged me, but I've always wondered, it has to hurt your hands, bro. Like what, I mean, I know you take the helmets off before you.
Can't do that anymore.
Oh, you can't?
Can't do that anymore.
So
So like when
are
I was
people breaking their hands?
so when I was first coming into the league, you could take your helmet off and you guys could square up. And also when I first came into the league, you didn't have to wear a visor. So now you got to wear a visor. Those are grandfathered in now. So if you came in the league when that was not there, you don't have to. So there's very few guys left that don't have to wear a visor. But when I came in, you had to wear a visor. So I had to wear a visor, and you can't take your helmet off anymore. But I mean, the adrenaline kicks in so much that you don't really feel it. And the worst part about it is, or like what you don't realize that those helmets, yeah, they're solid, but not solid enough, I don't think, to break your hand. So like there is some cushion to it, and like you end up just cutting your hands open a lot. I guess very rarely you're gonna break your hand on a helmet, but you're more gonna do it on somebody's head. To be honest with you,
How many times has your nose been broken?
I've never broken my nose.
Really?
Knock on wood, no, never broken it.
You've avoided getting hit in the nose?
I've been hit in the nose, but I've never broken my nose, fortunately.
That's insane,
Yeah,
man.
yeah. I never broken my
This is all so fascinating to me.
nose.
So what is the when there's a fight now, they have to keep their helmets on. How long do they let them fight?
So there's another thing. The refs have been like they've been told, but like they don't say that they've been told, that they try to break it up as quick as possible. And at the same time, like I think it's dangerous for the refs because they try and jump in there when the guy's trying to swing. Like, I mean, it puts them in danger. So, but usually any hockey fight is very quick. It could be from 10 to a minute.
It seems like when I've watched it, they let it go. I mean, they're not trying to jump in
Yeah,
there. They let it go.
they let it should be let go. It
Yeah.
should be, and because there's a code between it's just there's a natural code between players that, hey, when a guy falls, you don't hit him when he's down. That's
Right.
just part of it, right? And
Yeah.
like there's a point where you can both look each other in the face and go, okay, that's enough. And it usually is between 10 seconds and a minute.
So
So
these guys that fight, or
yep.
when you fight, I mean, can you go have a beer with a dude afterwards, or do you actually not? I mean, is there real animosity there?
There's very few guys, very few that after I've fought that I wouldn't go have a beer with. The majority of them I either have or would go in a heartbeat. Yeah.
So it is like this crazy code. I mean,
It is.
and I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that are hockey fans. They're like, how do you not know this stuff?
No,
I legitimately have all because I went to a Portland Winterhawks game a long time ago, and I don't remember anything about the game. All I remember is there was 5 fights in the game and like 2 fights in the stands.
So you went to a good game.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And, it was exciting. Like,
Yeah.
especially the ones in the stands. And everybody's like cheering and
Yeah.
going crazy. Okay, so you get into Division 1.
Yep.
You do pretty well, obviously. How does that work? Are they recruiting you? Is the NHL recruiting you like your senior year, or what happened there?
Yeah. So the majority of guys, I'd say the majority of guys are drafted. You get drafted between your like 16 and 18 year. And then you go wherever you're going to go to college or juniors. And then, after when they think you're ready, they'll sign you to an NHL contract, 2A, and then you kind of go from there. And then there's a handful of guys that are undrafted. They come like free agents. They just maybe develop later. And they sign out of college or juniors or hockey, whatever. They're out of Europe. And they sign out of that as a free agent. And for the majority of the time, they're either put in their development league, which is AHL or ECHL. Spend a few years there, and hopefully they can prove themselves. And so that was my I was undrafted. I came out as a free agent out of college.
Okay.
Finished my senior year, went and played a couple games with the minor league team in Providence, and then the following year signed on a professional tryout, and then was fortunate to sign a contract with them from there.
And when you sign that contract, what type of commitment is it, like time wise? Do you get like
it's kind of up to when you're a free agent like that? There's a few rules, but the majority of them are either 1, 2, or 3 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of uncertainty that goes along with this.
Oh yeah.
Because once you're like really in, you make pretty good money. But
Yeah.
at that point, they're probably like giving you the minimum amount of money and like basically no commitment.
Yeah, pretty much. It's no like, hey, there's no guarantee you're going to the NHL. Like
Right.
that's for damn sure.
Right.
And your pay is much different than what it would be in the National League. So like if you're in minors, you're making X, and
Yep.
then it's weird how it worked too, because there's and this is way deeper than you probably want to go, but like there's for contracts, there's like an NHL one way that means no matter what, you're making NHL money, even if you're playing in the minors. And then there's
Mm.
like an NHL two way where if you're in the AHL, you're making this. If you're in the NHL, you're making this. So it's like when you get called up for one game and then you get sent back down, you make NHL money for one game. And
Oh,
then you
okay.
get back on that. Yeah. So, and there's a bunch of different structures in contracts and like that. And it's just, yeah, it's a lot.
But how do you, man, like I always wonder this about professional athletes that are kind of at the entry level, like even on the UFC side or with this, or I have friends that are like on the basically the minor leagues of golf too, right?
Yep.
Where I was just looking at one of my friend's stats the other day. He's on they call it the Corn Ferry Tour now. It used to be called the Nike Tour.
Yep.
But he was on the PGA Tour last year. He must have lost his card or whatever, and now he's back on the Corn Ferry Tour, and he's played 5 or 6 events this year, and those events are not cheap to enter, to travel to stay at a hotel, get all your food, blah blah blah.
Yep.
I think he's won 30 or 40 grand so far, and I'm like, dude, that doesn't even come close to paying your
Pay,
bills.
pay the bills, not even.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
so I've always wondered, like, and admired people that can sort of handle that adversity of not knowing for sure what the hell is going to happen in the future, but sticking to it. And it sounds like that's kind of what you had to do too.
Yeah, so but I mean, it's the other part of it too is that usually when you're on that like minor league deal, like you don't have kids,
Right.
probably don't have a wife yet, um,
Yeah.
and you're young enough where what are your bills? You got a car payment, you're paying a
Right.
rent, and like in hockey, it gets you enough to buy a pretty nice car and pay the bills for the summer and then get back into it in hockey that way. So,
Hmm.
but then there are guys that in the minor leagues where you start getting older, you establish yourself, you're not quite at the NHL and you make the AHL, but like they start to pay you more to stick around to be a veteran leader. So there is definitely it is doable to make a living and career out of playing in the minors, but at the same time it can and definitely is more stressful.
Yeah, it's hard to hold a girlfriend down, and you're definitely
Yeah.
not starting the family at that point
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
you're betting on getting into the pros or the big
It
leagues.
is. Yeah, that was, I mean, that was one of the takes why my wife, at the time, my girlfriend, but my wife now, why she didn't initially move out right away. She did after college, she did another year, stayed in Chico State and worked while I was playing just because, all my eggs were in one basket. So I said,
Yeah,
listen,
she's like, I'm going to go ahead and wait until
yeah.
you prove to me that this is actually going to work out.
Yeah, exactly. Like, is this worth it or not? No,
Yeah.
no. It was just more of like I just needed to, I needed to focus on that at the time, and then when we made a decision, it was time to move out. It was basically the time where I was getting called up. So
Yeah. 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 Um, you said your dad was a football player? Is that what you said?
he grew up playing football through high school and whatnot, had no real like hockey experience or any idea about it. Does now, obviously, just because he's been surrounded for so long. But he was an athlete, but like hockey he wasn't pushing me in any direction.
But he did pass on being an athlete. You learn like all fundamentals of mental toughness and physical fitness and all these things. So obviously, you were fortunate to have a childhood with someone that passed those things on to you, and therefore
Absolutely. Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about that. Like,
Yep.
in order to do what you did, you have to have a certain level of mental toughness for a variety of reasons, not the least of which is just all the adversity you face,
Yep.
but also to push yourself to the level that very few people can ever get, and a lot of people want to get to.
Yep.
Um, how do you find, the courage and the strength to do that?
Um, I think it's like it's one of those things you learn from your dad. Like, the cliche is like yeah, you're fixing your car, like stuff you learned from your dad under the hood, you know,
Hmm.
like just like sitting around and just like, well, you know, listening or being around them. And like, I don't think it's not something we like had a huge conversation of about like, hey, you need to do this and do that. It's
Hmm.
just something more I learned. I think the biggest thing was from my dad that I weren't like learned, and like to this day is like hard work will kind of put, no matter what, like as long as you outwork everybody else, like you're going to put yourself in a good spot. And that was something like I was never a guy like that was, you know, like a goal scorer. I just didn't, I wasn't a finesse guy, but I just told, you know, my dad was just like, at least you need to outwork everybody. And like, that was one thing. And then I mean, the other thing I learned at a very young age, just being cut a number of times, was that like you're going to learn a lot more like from your failure than from success,
Hmm.
and like adversity like will forge you a lot harder and quicker than being selected every time.
Hmm.
And so that, you know, that was something I learned at a young age, and that, and then to see, I think the biggest thing is to see like when you know you're cut from a team, and and then to immediately see, hey, I need to put the work in, and then over time, over that next 6 months or whatever, you put the work in, and then to see the results of that at a young age is very valuable, and was very valuable for me. And so those, I think those things, those two things were able to give me more mental toughness, if you will, than
Hmm.
any like talk we could have ever
Right.
had. So like those, I mean, and that's something I, you know, being a father now, I've got a 4-year-old daughter and a 2-year-old son that like I'm gonna try to replicate for sure at a young age, where like just being having things thrown at you that you weren't expecting, having to battle through a little bit of adversity, and then to see the reward of coming out strong on the other side. It can translate into, I think, anything, any part of your life. And I, for me, you know, we're going to get into the hunting talk, but that's something that has translated into me outside my
Hmm.
career. So
Um, yeah, I have kids. I have 3 kids as well, and it's really interesting to watch them when they face adversity.
yeah,
They all handle a little bit different. At least mine do. Um, it is a challenge to get them to accept it and like move through it though. Like the first reaction, like for example, my son who plays a lot of sports, when he gets hurt, like the other day I was at a soccer game and this other kid ran into him and headbutted him, and my son was crying, and my first instinct is like to go out there and like comfort him, and but I'm
yeah,
like, no, don't do it. He'll deal with it. Like the coach was dealing with it. He's gonna be okay. It wasn't hard or anything.
yeah,
Like he didn't have a concussion or anything. But as a parent, it's hard to watch your kid go through pain like that and not be the savior. But it's like super important because it's a bunch of like, it seems like it's like thousands of little lessons will prevent them from like a big fuck up, right?
yes, big time. Like those are, and that's I'm like, I do the same thing, especially like, I don't know. How many you have
I
boys, all
I
boys?
have 2 boys and a girl.
Okay, so for me, it is extremely hard with my girl.
Yeah.
I found it easy with my son, where I'm like, hey, just get up, you're fine. He's 2,
Yeah.
and
Right.
I'm like, I don't know, but with my daughter, like it is like it is hard, and I've had to like actively um, tell myself, just listen, she's going to be better off down the road if you're just able to give her space to figure it out a little bit on her own.
Hmm.
And so that's something I have to like really be aware of.
Hmm.
And it's just, I don't know, but I'm looking at those, I'm looking for opportunities to put her in those positions where she may fail or have to
Yeah.
battle or go through some adversity, even at 4. Because I like you said, those look like they add up over
Yeah.
time. They add up, and they're gonna create that person here down the road.
Yeah. I agree with my daughter. It's really hard. Now she's starting to go through puberty.
Yeah,
And you can tell she's starting to have crushes on boys, and like her feelings are getting hurt. But someone says
yeah,
something about her looks, like all the normal stuff that you start encountering when you're like 11, 12, 13, 14. I remember it, dude. It was
yeah,
awful. Like
yeah,
and I'm like cringing because I know what they're all headed towards. High school,
yep.
middle school, and high school. They're hard. Not life's way harder. Like adult
Oh
life's
yeah,
hard, but different type of hard. Like that time is just like it's the period of like it's just you don't have the fucking clue who you are. You don't
no
know how to
idea.
you don't know how to handle stress. You don't, you buckle under pressure, you buckle under, peer pressure, especially. And, your feelings get hurt very easily. You just start to figure out how to deal with the opposite sex or whatever. And, the Altitude Show is brought to you by Peaks Equipment, the world's leading technical, hard goods, and accessories brand for backcountry enthusiasts. From trekking poles to headlamps to best-in-class skaters, Peaks delivers a system of products that work to achieve optimal performance in the harshest conditions. Don't suffer on your hunting adventures. Peaks enables you to thrive on the mountain when everyone else is going home. Visit peaksequipment.com and use code ALTITUDE for 10% off today. That's ALTITUDE for 10% off on peaksequipment.com. She's, like I said, she's starting to get in this area where her emotions are a little bit more of a roller coaster ride. And as a father, I didn't go through that. Luckily, thank God for my wife who did, and she knows how to manage it. But I don't know how to manage a little girl who's starting puberty. One minute she's laughing, the next minute she's crying. I don't know how that.
Yeah. How would you know? Like, there's no training for that.
No.
Like, you just do your damnedest to try to keep it under. And I'm like, oh man, I'm petrified for that time. Like, if she's 4 right now, and I'm just like, I have no idea, just because I know how I have two. I got older brother, younger brother. I didn't grow up with sisters or around girls, the whole thing, and I just know that I'm like, it's going to be terribly hard to manage that.
Yeah, I didn't either. I had an older brother, and I was the middle, so I was same as you. I didn't have exposure to a lot of this stuff, other than girlfriends, friends I had that were girls. But being a dad to a little girl, like, think about this, man. Wait till she brings her first boyfriend home someday.
Oh, he's in trouble. I'll be honest. I'm going to be totally honest. I pray for that kid,
dude. So. I don't think I'm very far from her having her first boyfriend.
Yeah, I mean, you're right around the corner.
Yeah, so I'm like, whew.
Yeah, you got anything set up?
I have no idea how I'm going to deal with it. I really don't. My wife tends to be the disciplinary in our family. I try to be, just because I was gone a lot of their childhood, just when I was at Sitka Gear.
Yeah.
I traveled a lot. And so now that after I quit, or after I resigned or whatever, I've kind of structured my life to where I'm home a lot. I pick them up almost every day. I take them to school almost every day, and I spend a lot more time with them. So I think just because I kind of feel a little guilty that I was gone so much early, that I kind of try to be the cool dad,
Yeah.
So, absolutely. But that doesn't mean I discipline too, but my wife is definitely way more strict than I am, But when it comes to stuff like, because I was a train wreck in high school, man. Like, I started drinking and chewing when I was like 14,
Yep.
I lost my virginity when I was 15 or 16.
Yep.
Like all these things, right? And I'm thinking, God, I don't think if one of my kids turns out like I would be so pissed beyond belief. Like I wouldn't handle it well. I was drinking and driving, like, all that stuff. Like, it's just not stuff that should happen these days. Like, we've hopefully moved.
Well, you could have got away with it back then, right? Like a little bit. Obviously you did. Nowadays there's just no room. There's no room for it.
No. No.
There's no room for it.
Yeah, and the littlest mistakes can have the most dire consequences.
Yep.
Right? I was even telling my wife the other day about a couple of friends of mine that they got pregnant when we were in high school.
Yeah.
And how much that affected their life even to this day. And I was thinking, God, let's pre-order the birth control, because
just have it ready.
Like
the second the day that comes, it's like, here we are, honey.
But that's another tough conversation. It's like, well, she shouldn't be having sex. So like,
I got a question for you then. Here's a good question. At what age are you sharing what you've gone through and what you went through with your daughter? Are you going to be an open book?
I was hoping I didn't have to share it with her. Yeah, I don't think there's any way around it, because there's probably boxes of pictures of me drunk and smoking cigarettes, and but I haven't exactly figured out how to do it right because what I don't want, because sometimes what'll happen is your kids will try to be like you. It's like, well, my dad was a rebel, so therefore I'm a rebel,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I don't want that.
But
So
are you going to go like that's where I'm questioning, like, because I'm curious about this, because like I have no idea, but I've already thought about it. Is like, are you going to be an open book and say, hey, this is how I was. This is okay. Yes, like you're very, you're successful. You made it. You're good. But like, and that led you to where you are now, like your experiences in the past. But it obviously could have gone a number of ways, right? It could have
oh
gone a
yeah,
number of
I mean,
ways.
I still think it set me behind 5 to 10 years
Yeah.
in
So
my
like,
career.
so it could have, but it could have gone worse, and it could have
Oh
gone
my
worse. So like, are
god,
you?
dude. Oh
That's what
my.
I mean. It could have gone 10 times worse. But so they look at you and they go, "Oh, well, my dad's awesome dad,
Right.
successful, home all the time, right? And he did all this." But so like, is there a fine line for you where you're like, "Hey, I did this, but like, I'm not gonna tell you about this box, but I'll tell you about this one. And hey, don't do this. Don't go down this road." Or are
Yeah.
you just gonna say, "Look, here's what happened. Here's what I did. Don't do this if you can." Like, I'm like, there's no way around it. Like, they're gonna drink before they're 21, right?
Right.
But so like, what do where do you
I'm
say?
trying to create an environment like my parents did, which was there's nothing you can't talk to me about.
Yeah,
There's nothing there's no time of the day that
you
you
can't
can't call
call.
me and I will come get you. My parent, dude, my mom picked me up from school one day when I was so stoned I couldn't even get through class.
Yeah,
And I fell asleep in the back of her car on the way home and she never talked to me about it one time. Like
yeah,
it was not a thing because
yep.
she never wanted me to feel like I had to like in that
Hi.
yeah, hide. Therefore, it creates worse situations like you driving or
Yep.
you know, so we're trying to create an environment and a culture where they can tell us anything. It actually, the thing that makes me the most angry is when they try to they'd be like, something happened at school today, but I can't tell you about it. And I'm like,
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Yeah,
yeah, that's not acceptable.
yeah,
Like, there's nothing you can't tell me about. But then especially with something like that, it's like, whoa, there's so many bad things that could happen at school that I need to know about, right? Honestly, Kevin, I think my biggest hurdle to get over. I'll deal with the drinking thing and the sex thing when it comes. I think we've set an environment pretty well at our house. Like they see us socially have a beer or a glass of wine and stuff, but they've never seen us drunk. Neither of us smoke or do tobacco or do anything
yep.
like that. So I think they've seen and kids are much more educated these days. It's crazy. I can't remember. My son the other day saw someone smoking and he's like, that's bad for you. That's going to kill that person. And I'm like, well, that's a little harsh, but yes, it's not
But
good
yeah,
for you. And I'm glad you guys know that because when I was growing up, shit, me and my friends were smoking cigarettes in junior high.
yeah. And
Like,
you had no idea. There was no
no,
like, yeah, whatever.
no. I mean, we were getting, I mean, like Marlboro straights, no filters. And
Cowboys.
yeah, yeah. I started chewing Kodiak when I was 15, like
Yep.
a can a day, you know,
Yeah.
and most of my friends did. So I think culturally we've moved past a lot of that. At least where we are, I don't see as much like in front of our high school. There was tons of kids smoking on the corner. I don't see that around where I live. So I
Yep.
guess I guess I'm hoping culturally we move past it enough to where there's not as much of a lift for me.
Yeah.
But the one thing that I can tell I'm already going to have an issue with is bullying.
Okay.
I I'm trying to figure out how to deal with that. So yesterday, my son came home and said, out on the playground, three dudes were like pushing him around or something.
Yeah.
And my wife is a teacher, so she'll tell me, make sure that he can't do anything other than go tell a teacher. Get away from it. Go tell a teacher. But I grew up. The only way to deal with the bully is actually to make them a little bit scared of you.
Oh yeah.
So I'm like, hey, I am not gonna not to tell him. I'm not gonna not tell him to push back sometimes because
You can't.
no. And she's like, well, you can't do that. I'm like, well, okay, suspend him, but I'm not gonna allow my son to
Same
just
boat.
run away from it. Like I'm sorry, I'm just not gonna do that because I know my wife was homeschooled, so she never had to deal with the high school portion of this. But right now, it's just these fun, like somebody pushed him or whatever. In
It
high
starts
school,
rolling downhill.
I got a swirly. I got thrown in a dumpster. I
Yeah.
got punched. I was small, so I
Yeah.
got bullied. So, and the only way to get around it is to make sure that either your friends around you, those bullies are a little bit scared of your friends or a
Yep.
little bit scared of you. Otherwise, it's just going to get worse and worse. So we have this debate going between me and my wife, and I'm like, okay, I'm fine with them telling a teacher for a little bit, like,
Yeah.
but if it continues to not work, I'm going to tell them to push back.
You
And
have to.
I'm not saying hit or like be violent, but like just make sure that person knows that you're not going to tolerate their crap.
Yep.
You know?
I think that's well, and that's I think it's a large debate, but like culturally, that's just where we're headed.
Yeah.
Like it's just we just tried to because it used to be like, all right, the two kids would no matter what age it would, they'd be like, oh, fight back behind
Yeah.
school, and then next thing you know, they're best buddies.
Right.
At,
Yeah,
you
I just
know,
don't think they're like to a bully. Like the worst message you can send is like, I'm gonna go tattletale on you every time you do something to me. It's like,
he's gonna do it more.
yeah, they're like this is great. This is
Yeah,
exactly the reaction I wanted to get out of
yeah.
you because that kid
Well,
does.
that's I mean, it's funny because like that's the same in a diff. I mean, it's different, but in the same kind of vein as like where hockey was. It's like if there's no repercussions, what's going to stop you from doing it again? You know, when you have to think about fighting that guy because I just hit that guy, you're probably not going to do it. And it's the same. I think it just kind of is the same in similar in the same vein as like when you're a kid.
It's setting boundaries.
Yeah,
It's like if it's or in like political terms, it's deterrence, right?
yeah,
It's like the whole reason we have nukes
yeah,
is to deter anybody from using nukes.
exactly,
But we have the button too, so
exactly.
don't fuck with us.
Yeah,
But we never want to use them.
yeah. They're there. They're safety net.
That's the way I look at it. But I can already tell, just because it's so personal to me, that one bugs me. I'm gonna have to remain politically correct, obviously, but it it's just
That's a
it's
hard one.
yeah, dude.
Like, at what point are you kicking the front
Well,
door?
or like my kid comes home when he's, if a kid ever comes home, my kid's got a black eye. He got punched in
Yeah,
the face. He's
yeah,
supposed to just go tell a teacher?
yeah.
Like,
It's
so
happening.
what? They can go slap the kid in the hand, and they can't really do anything to him anymore. What are they going to do? So, like, is there a point where it's okay as a parent to be like, you know what, hit him back? You
Yeah,
know, I don't know. I'm not promoting violence, everybody, but I'm just saying, like, what is that point, and how do parents deal with that?
it's a hard question. It's a hard
Yeah,
question
yeah.
for sure.
Um, is there anything you regret for going all in on pro sports? Like, do you do you look back and be like, man, sometimes I feel like I should have just done X, Y, Z, or is this something you're like, I'm so glad I went down this path?
I am so glad I went down this path, um, just because it's something that I was so passionate about. I loved every minute of it, the ups, the downs, and I've had a lot of ups and I've had a lot of downs. Um, I think it made me who I am. My identity is not like I'm not all in. I'm just a hockey player. I have a lot of passions and like things outside of it. It's afforded me to do a lot of the things that I want to do, but I do, you know, there were things growing up as a kid that I missed for sure. Time with my parents that I'll never get back. Time with my brothers that I'll never get back. I like I said, I left when I was 15, and my older brother is 3 years older than me. My younger brother is a year and a half younger than me.
Mhm.
And like time with those guys that I missed. I hunting was always something that I really really wanted to get into at a very young age, but never did because of hockey. So there's things that I definitely I think I missed, but like I don't think I'd change a damn thing.
Yeah, it's impossible to do what you've done without sacrifice, right?
Yeah, it's all part of it for
Yeah.
sure. It's all part of it, and
And
those are calculated things too. Like I just knew that, like because I was so passionate about it, I just knew that hey, like all these other things that I would like to do, I can wait. They will wait, because I'm so on this hockey thing.
mhm.
So
And also, what's the average career in the NHL? Like, when do most people like when are you done? When you're
five and
35
a
or
half years is your average, and you usually nowadays is like the mean age. I guess it's like 28.
oh wow. So you're out early.
You're out early. You're
And
out
that's
early.
and that's predominantly because of the physical abuse you take.
Physical abuse. How there's only so many jobs,
Right.
and it just yeah, it's just the game's getting faster. Guys stuck around a lot longer when they were, 15, 20 years ago. But the game's just getting so fast and so physical that every year the league just seems to get younger and younger.
Do the best hockey? This is so cliche, but I got to ask it. Do the best hockey players come from Canada?
Yes, if I'm being honest, I'd say. So here's the thing. I'd say the best. So the majority of them, yes, there are some of the best hockey players to ever play the game from the U.S., but I'd say the great majority of them come from Canada.
And isn't Russia really good at hockey too?
There's some Russian guys. I mean, Europe makes there's guys from all over,
Everywhere.
from everywhere. But there's a reason Canada basically wins, the Olympics every year, because you look at the lineup, but just the majority of the guys are from Canada.
Yeah. And is that because of the obvious reasons that it's
Yep.
such a huge part of the culture up there? Those kids are just in it immediately.
It's the same reason where you go like for U.S. soccer. We have what 330 million people, but we lose to Costa Rica every year, right? In
Right.
soccer, because everybody in Costa Rica plays soccer, right?
Right.
So it's the same reason in Canada, right? There's
Hmm.
just like whatever population, but every single person that grows up on skates. So
Yeah, I have some friends that a lot. Actually, I have a lot of friends in Canada, and they're like rabid hockey fans.
yeah, they're it's wild. I love
And
playing up there. It's so
yeah.
much fun. Yeah, it's that's my like so like for Boston, our biggest rival is the Canadians, the Montreal Canadiens.
Uh
But
huh.
like that is by far my most favorite place to play.
When you go play the Canadians, you say it's Montreal.
Montreal.
When you go to Montreal and play the Canadians, what's that like? I mean, are they just booing you guys? And
That place is like it could be 12 o'clock in the afternoon, day game, and that place is like a Stanley Cup final. It is awesome. It is
really?
it is the most electric place to play in. It's cool because like the Bell Center too, like where they're at, is like super steep.
Hmm.
So it's like the old Garden, like for Boston.
Oh.
Boston's now a big bowl, but like can't because it's right downtown. But it's
Uh-huh.
super steep, so it feels like the crowd's like right on you.
Yeah.
It just I don't know. That place is just awesome. It really is.
What does that feel like to be in front of that many people doing what you love? That's like the ultimate high, right?
It's insane. Yeah, it's something I'll probably chase the rest of my life. The only thing that I've ever found that comes close to it is elk hunting.
Well, we'll get into that because I tend to agree with you.
yeah.
When you walk, musicians a lot of times will experience this. It'll be like the ultimate high, but then when you leave there, it's like the ultimate low. Have you experienced that?
Um. Yes and no. I think the natural progression for me was just knowing that hey, this has to come to an end. And I played 10 years pro, and I played 10 years longer than I thought I was going to play. To
Which
be
is a
honest with
long career.
you, which is long, right? Very long. And I like it. It's like I said, I would have if you would have told me at 18 that I was going to have a 10-year pro career, I would have laughed at you. Said, okay, yeah, right. Like
Hmm.
I'll be lucky if I get. So I'm grateful for every minute of it. But like just knowing that eventually it was going to come to an end, um, and ready to turn the page on to the next one. I miss it every day. I miss
Yeah.
my teammates and like the competition side of it. But just I got lucky to play, and I was grateful for every shift I got to play.
Are you a big hockey fan? Do you still follow it and watch all the things? And
It's hard for me too.
yeah.
It is. It's when I turn the game on, like playoffs are coming up. I'll watch that. I love it. There's nothing like playoff hockey. And but I don't watch it a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. You
it's hard.
almost become not burn out, but you just want to move on, right?
Yeah, I've watched enough hockey, and here's the thing: as time, I guarantee you, as time goes between, I'm just coming up on a year here in like 15 days, like where like I've been out of the game for a year, but I guarantee you, like 2 years down the road, I'll probably be more of a fan.
Hmm.
Where like I'm more removed from being a player, and now I'm more of a fan.
Yeah, you just want to kind of take some space, and
Yeah,
you have a whole new life starting, right? How old are you?
yeah. I'm 34.
Oh, you're young, dude.
Yeah, 34.
You have basically your entire life ahead of you.
Yeah,
What
yeah.
do you What are you gonna do now?
I told my wife, and we had this conversation that I was going to take a year off and like let my body heal and like relax. But then we started building a home, and I'm like GC in it, so like that's
Okay.
been nonstop. But I don't know what I'm going to do next. I'm going to do something because I like working.
Hmm.
I don't know where I'm going to do, but and then on the hunting side of it, there's a lot of things that I want to get done.
Yeah,
So
you're doing this. Now, what's your partner's name? Brad?
yeah, Brad Marchand.
Marshall. Okay. I want to have him on, so don't let me forget
You'd love to have that guy.
yeah.
You're
Yeah.
right.
You guys are doing this thing, March and Mill.
Yep.
Which is, tell us about it.
Uh, Funny because like honestly, we started this like so. Um, I finally got to the point in my career where I was like, okay, hey, I can probably for the past 4 or 5 years, like, hey, I could spend a little time like during the season hunting and like maybe preseason catch like early archery season before training camp starts. And before I was like, hey, I have like I was season ended, I get 3 weeks off and then like start training. And like August, September was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go elk hunting. Yeah, right. Like that's like right before training camp. So, but like the last couple of years before I retired was like I was able to kind of get comfortable enough to go and do it. And so my teammate Brad, like we're sitting on the bus, we're talking about, hey, what are we doing? Like, where are you going to go? Let's, and he bought me my first bow, and like said, hey man, you need to get into this. And so we started hunting in Boston and whatnot. But we're sitting on the bus and he's like, hey man, we should start this company, like just so we can, write off going on hunts and whatnot, like and make it like a business. So we started making some hats and shirts, and like then it just kind of took off, and it turned into way more than what we had ever thought it would be. So we kind of been fortunate for the success, and like everyone's kind of taken to it. Obviously helps that we were hockey players, or he's still a hockey player and I was, but I think it's kind of exposed a lot of people that maybe weren't in the outdoor space or didn't
Yeah.
think about it, and then are now looking into it because they're got this hat on that goes, oh well, what's this about? So it's been a lot of fun, and we ended up getting an outfit up in Newfoundland and another one in New Brunswick, and so we do a little bit of that, and just try to share our experiences.
So you bought an outfit?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yep. So my Brad's from up there, that kind of that, not from Newfoundland, but like kind of Nova Scotia-ish,
Yeah.
Halifax area. And his family's been done the outfit stuff before. So we own an outfit up in Newfoundland that does moose and caribou, and then another outfit in New Brunswick that does black bear.
No way.
Yeah.
That's super cool, man.
Yeah.
That and you have other people running those operations,
Yeah, so
obviously.
we had guys that are running it, and we'll try
Yeah.
and get up there when we can. And I
Yeah.
think initially we had bought an outfit in Newfoundland that where we had too many tags and stuff, and it was more of a business. And I think we're getting away from that, where more of it we'll sell a couple to keep the lights on, but want to bring people in that we want to be around, and
Yeah.
friends and family,
Yeah.
and just try to we've been fortunate to link up with some really cool people in the industry, and so
Yeah.
trying to get them up there to share the time with us.
Absolutely.
And then the bear one's a little bit more of a business-ish because we had 20 tags there. We'll
Right.
kind of pass those around, but also sell a few. So it's been a lot of fun, but not something we initially had the intentions of doing. And then just kind of fell on our plate a little bit and said, yeah, let's do it. So
What kind of caribou are up there? Are those woodland caribou?
they're woodland, yeah.
Oh,
It's,
wow.
it's the last place to do it, right? So a lot of people that are trying to chase the North American 29 are head up to Newfoundland for those.
Well, I think my invitation got lost in the mail, but
Oh well, you're welcome to come whenever you want.
woodland caribou is
Yeah,
one of my dreams, man.
yeah.
Those things are beautiful.
It's so I actually haven't been up there. I'm going up here in October, but we
Okay.
bought it 2 years ago because of COVID and whatnot. So I'm heading up in October to do it. But Brad, I mean, he's been the last couple of years, he's been having at it because our because of COVID and whatnot. So he's been
Right.
able to go up there and have fun. His parents gone up there, and his brother and his dad, and so yeah, I'm really looking forward to it.
Is it a fly-in camp or?
Yeah, so where our initial camp was not, it was a drive-in. We had 24 moose tags and 4 caribou tags, and we just said it's just too much because we were trying to get them to shoot some nice moose, and if you're shooting 24 moose off your spot, you're just going to kill everything.
Right.
So we're like, nope, we're not doing that. So we ended up selling that. We bought a fly-in only. So we have 10 moose tags.
Okay.
The guys before us had managed it for like trophy moose, so they don't shoot anything under a 45-inch moose there.
Uh-huh.
So we're gonna keep that alive, and then we transfer the caribou tags to where we're at, and so we'll have those, and then but yeah, it's a fly-in only, and
And when you go up there, are you doing archery?
I'm gonna do archery, yeah,
Nice.
yep, for both. So I'm heading there for September 29th, and I'm gonna come back on October 12th. So I'm gonna do 2 weeks up there. Gonna try and
Wow.
catch the moose rut a little bit, and just
How does that work for a U.S. resident? I mean, is it just you're just buying a tag and?
Yeah. So what's different is the outfits actually own the tags. So
Yeah, yeah.
the outfits buy them from the government and they sell the tags there. So you just basically buy a tag. There's no draw, no nothing.
Yeah, gotcha.
The outfits own them, and then you're up there. You have the tag in your pocket, and
How many of your spots per year are you going to sell versus just keep for you and your buddies?
for the caribou, we don't know yet because they might take them away because of the herd.
Right. Yeah,
So
because
we're
they just shut down caribou hunting in Quebec.
Yeah, so they may do that where we're at. So I think we have at least 2 more years. We didn't sell any this year because we're going to keep them. Next year we may, we're not sure. But moose, we have 10. We'll probably sell 4, 5.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Gotcha.
So
That's incredible, man. What a dream come true to do that.
it really is. It was just like, man, it just kind of landed in the good spot. And obviously, Marchand, he's got a lot of connections up there, so he was able to find the right spot to do it. He's more that side of it, but I'm so excited to get up there. I can't wait.
Oh my gosh, yeah, that's going to be. Now, are you still? So when did you start shooting a bow?
4 years ago. Yep.
Oh, okay. So
4 years ago.
You're fairly fresh into it.
I'm about as green as it gets.
Well,
I'm about as green as it gets. I'm about as obsessed as it is, though. Like, I'm catching the bug that like most guys get when they're like 18, 19. I got it right now. So like my wife's like, oh boy. We were turning on like videos the other day, and like I'm just watching elk videos, this and that. It's like April. She's like, "Are we watching this all the way to September?" Like, yeah, we are. This is what's going on.
Boy, she's in for it, man.
She's in for it. Yeah.
I can see it in your eyes. It's
awesome. I love it.
It's gonna be become a year-round obsession.
It is. That's kind of what. And I'm fortunate to have that, because a lot of guys get out, they don't have this kind of thing outside of it. It was just kind of how it worked out. That I started bow hunting like in Boston and I was able to have some fun and success with it. And then like, I was just like, hey man, all in, like, this is what I want to do.
Yeah. So. Did you hunt much in Massachusetts?
Yeah. So like, that's kind of how I got started in bow hunting. So Brad, he's like, I'm a lefty. So he buys this bow. He's been twisting my arms like, man, you got to come bow hunting. And I'm like, you know what? Like, I like rifle hunting, like whatever. Like, I don't need, And he's like, no, like, you got to do this. And so he goes and he's like, hey man, I bought this bow on eBay and it showed up lefty. I'm like, okay, yeah. So like he gave me the bow.
Outdoor Class is the new source of premium outdoor education from trusted and knowledgeable experts. For hunters committed to improving their skills, Outdoor Class is the only subscription-based e-learning platform that provides unlimited access to video lessons from the world's most respected experts. Learn from industry leaders like Corey Jacobson, Randy Newberg, Remy Warren, and other experts across all the topics that affect you as a hunter. Make sure to follow Outdoor Class Official on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, and take your game to the next level by going to outdoorclass.com. You can use code ALTITUDE at checkout for 20% off. That is ALTITUDE at checkout for 20% off at outdoorclass.com.
Get it all set up, and we were hunting like 15, 20 minutes from our practice facility, like basically in Boston, which was cool. Like these little small pockets where whitetails were hanging out, and then
gotcha.
Yeah, just got hooked that way.
Gotcha. It's especially archery. You mentioned it earlier. I wanted to get into it a little bit. Archery is addicting. Hunting's addicting. But when you finally go, and I watched your guys' video on when you went elk hunting. You must have been last year sometime.
In Colorado, we used your song.
Yeah, absolutely.
Did you watch that one?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
All right.
I appreciate it, man.
Oh man, we were like, I sent that out to him because, like, I mean, we'll probably get into this, but like that song, I don't know. We'll delve into it. Just resonates. I'm sure you hear that all the time.
I do, but it never gets old, so I appreciate it because that you're talking about altitude, obviously.
Oh yeah.
That song was one that I'd mostly written, but stored away in my voice memos for at least a couple years before I even played it for anybody.
Yeah.
And the reason that I didn't was the stupidest thing you should do in music or any art, which was It's not really radio friendly. It's not like, there's no chance of it ever going really past like a niche. All the things that you tell yourself to talk yourself out of doing things that are really authentic,
Yeah.
I did with that song. And then one day I was driving through Montana, and I was thinking about what song to record next. And I had the option between that one and another one that was much more like what I would call like normal. Like it was
Radio
kind of,
friendly.
yeah. And even though I'm never going to be, well, I shouldn't say never, never say never.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be on the radio. That's not
Yeah.
why I do music. If I ever am, great. But it wasn't even that I'm chasing the radio. It's more just sometimes you get brainwashed into thinking that you have to do what everybody else is doing.
Yeah.
And it's like the number one mistake.
Yeah.
But we all fall into it. Anyways.
Oh, absolutely. How could you not?
Yeah. It's like the easier decision. Well, that one's pretty because you'll and then the problem is you start asking people's opinions.
Yeah.
And you go, what do you guys think? And they'll be like, well, that one's pretty niche, man. I don't know. Niche. And as a business person and a marketing and brand person, I know that's like the number one red flag you should look for in other people's feedback. Number one, being a niche isn't bad.
No.
Necessarily, depending on what your goals are, right?
Yeah, exactly. If you're chasing it, then great.
Yeah. But even, and I get in this debate with my music friends all the time because if you're in Nashville and you're trying to get on the radio, like obviously you have to balance being like super duper authentic and deep with being radio friendly, right?
Yeah.
There's this constant battle. But if you look at there's story after story of, from Sturgill Simpson to Chris Stapleton to Jason Isbell to all the Macklemore to like all there's story after story after story of people being niche but then becoming mainstream.
Yeah.
Like the trends are started by trendsetters, like not by doing what everybody else does. Point being, I was driving down the road and I was thinking about all these things. I'm like, wait a minute, I'm making the same mistake that I tell people not to do, which is listen too much to other people's feedback.
Yeah.
Do what's in your heart, put out what's the most real to you. And by the way, I'm not even trying to make a living doing this. So like, why does it matter? Yeah. And so like, I recorded it. Well, first I played it at the show in Montana and people are like, dude, that's an awesome song. And then I recorded it and it just by leaps and bounds is my most popular song.
It's awesome.
And the reason it is because it's the most real one. Right. So I'm actually going to Nashville in a few weeks to record, and I'm going to do a couple more down the same vein, man. Like,
right on.
They're very,
awesome.
They're very right down that same lane. But I'm like, you know what?
Is that so when the other one I got to ask you about? Sorry for a fan.
Go ahead.
Here. Like when you were here, when you were
where I think I am.
Yeah.
When you were. Yeah.
When you were.
Yeah.
Was that the same vein?
That one, I wrote lyrics. I thought of the title, and then I was having a hard time writing it. But I wrote all these lyrics into a shitty melody that I don't even remember what it was. And I basically threw it away. And I was trying to think of things to record again. And I'm like, I really like that hook on that song, but I just don't. The melody that I'd written with it was absolute garbage. So I took the lyrics and I texted them to a songwriter friend of mine in Nashville, Kenton Bryant, and I said, I really need your help. Could you write this song? Like, here's the lyrics. You don't have to use all of them, but here's the essence of it, And a few days later, he sent me a voice memo recording of a way better melody along with most of my lyrics. He also changed some lyrics too.
Yeah.
And that's how that came about. But that song was super important to me too. It was, my dad was, it still remains to this day, my best friend.
Yeah.
Has been. I have a great relationship with my mom too, but like from when I was 2 years old, my dad had me on his back, hunting and fishing and golfing. And like he went out of his way and sacrificed a lot of his, well, I guess when he was my age, a lot of his middle age to give me and my brothers all of those experiences that have made my life so much better. And at the time you take it for granted.
Oh, it's,
because I didn't know anything else. I thought this is just what dads do. But as I grew up, I started noticing that's not normal.
It's not normal.
No, and like, and so as I've gotten older, and now that I have my own kids, and I realize how much effort it takes to go out of your way when you've been working all day, or you have a lot of pressure on you as a father and a mother to go out of your way and like just pay attention at a soccer game, or
Yeah.
like sacrifice your golf game to teach your son how to hit a shot. Like the selfishness, like it's a big switch when you kind of get to that when you have kids that are starting to do things.
Yeah.
And now entering into hunting, my son he's got a bear tag right now, and so I am in Oregon when he's 9. In Oregon, they mentor my tag. So if I get a bear tag, he shoots the bear on my tag,
Got
but
it.
I can't shoot
Gotcha.
anymore. So you're sacrificing your tag now.
Yeah.
And so like there's all these sacrifices, and now that I look back on it, I'm like, holy shit, that guy and my mom gave sacrifice so much to make sure. And my mom says this all the time. She's like, do you realize how much effort I put in to make sure your childhood was fun?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I do now, but I didn't then. That song was just about that. It's just like realizing how hard it is to be that and trying your best to be like them. But it took you that much time to realize it, because
You
you're
realize it.
yeah, when you're a
You're
kid,
15, you have no idea. You're like, yeah,
oh
all
my
right.
God, dude.
This
And
is what-
I damn near threw it all away, just like I told you earlier. I mean,
yeah.
hundreds of times, right?
That's why, like, I listen to that. I think, you have certain songs that resonate so much, and like, I'm a music guy, big time. Where like, it drives my, driving in my truck or whatever. It just drives like how my day's gonna go, right? So like, it's just, and so that those songs, and I have the same thing with my dad. Like, I mean, we were in California. Like, he was driving me to, he would come home. He's up 5 a.m. He gets home 3:30, 4 o'clock. Turn around, get me in the car, drive back down to LAX, an hour and a half in traffic. We don't get home till 10:30 at night. And this was like 3-4 days a week. My mom did the same thing. All my Christmas and Thanksgiving and everything, holidays were spent in Fargo, North Dakota, or Quebec, or Calgary, or, all these different places where like my parents and my dad and the whole, sacrificed so much. And like at the time, like you said, I didn't realize it, but like now looking back here, I'm going, holy smokes. So like that's just,
it's pretty rare, man. You look at your friends.
Oh, it's totally completely different.
Yeah. I had a lot of friends where their parents were like, good luck. You're on your own. And as soon as you're 18, get the hell out of here.
Yeah.
Dude, my dad's still one of my business partners. And even to this day, he does the same thing. I actually, and even to this day in the hunting woods, he does it to where at some point about 10 years ago, maybe 15 years ago, I stopped following him in the woods and he started following me. Like there was this shift of the universe.
Yeah.
But even still, like there'll be a bull coming in and he'll be out front and I'll be like, don't you dare do it. And he'll stand up and run behind me and want me to shoot still. And I'll be like, Dad, don't do that. I will get an elk. And if I don't, then I have lots of years to do it. Yeah. Please give me the enjoyment of giving back. Like I want to help you get an elk, Yeah. It's a constant. We actually get into it quite a bit. Like we'll hear a bugle or there'll be a situation where we need to move really fast and we'll be like, no, you go. No, I am not going. You go. Like stop it. Shut up and get your ass up there.
That's awesome. That is awesome.
So maybe that, and it's just in his age, he just doesn't, he has killed lots of elk and deer and all the things. He really doesn't value that as much anymore. I mean,
just the time with you there.
Yeah, he just wants to see me succeed, and that's how it's always been. And I'm starting to see that with myself. I don't care if I have a bear tag. Like,
nope.
I actually, I mean, I take a bear. I've shot a couple. I don't, whatever. But the thought of my son, like we're going out again next week. Like, and I've spent so much money on this, dude. My wife it's driving her crazy. Every day there's a new box that shows up. I mean, we got all the things. Like I got him decked out in all the best gear, and I'm so jacked for when we actually get on a bear. And I mean, I'll probably cry.
Oh, 100%.
And I mean, when I shot my elk last year, I was excited and it was fantastic and great, but I've done it so many times now that I get much bigger high seeing other people succeed. Not that I don't want to succeed myself, because I do,
Yeah.
but there's just this momentum shift, and I'm trying to be really conscious of it because I want to give my kids an even better experience than I got.
Yeah.
So now I'm starting to also think like, my wife and I are talking a lot about it. Like, what experiences are we going to give them? Like, so one of the things that we've settled on is like, if we have the means, we're going to try to take them to all of the continents by the time they graduate high school.
That's a lofty goal. That's cool though.
Yeah, and it's very money related,
Yeah.
but it's our goal, and so we'll see if we can actually make it happen. I mean, but think about it. Even if we're only 60%, right? They had a better childhood than most of the world.
99.9999%.
Right. So like, if we can save whatever it takes to do this, and make something happen, it's better than not doing anything. That's one of our goals. So I'm trying to be conscious of it, and
That's cool.
Really, because I know how much that, dude. Because I'm not a very book smart person. Like, I got a 1.8 in high school. The only reason that I've had any level of success in my whole life is because I could hunt. I wasn't scared of trying anything. I could play golf, and I could play a little bit of guitar. Like the skills that I was granted with via my dad have helped get me through life. But also the entrepreneurial spirit and the belief in myself, and that there's no boundaries and nothing I can't achieve. Like those half dozen or 10 gifts that him and my mom gave me.
Yeah.
So, my kids are already more book smart than me, so they already have a leg up on me.
But you're going to pass down the other side.
I hope so. So and I know it's not 100%, but I want to give them the best odds, at least. I think that's the whole goal.
Yeah. That's your job, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I'm still learning. I'm on the job training all the time.
On the job training.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So this new venture with you and your partner there.
Yeah.
What's the goal with it? Like, what are you trying to do?
I think it's pretty, I don't know. So like initially we started it literally as like, hey, we're just going to be able to like write off going on hunts. Like that was strictly the goal. That quickly changed. Just given that like, our team had like picked it up. They started putting it in a pro shop. They were promoting it, and so that kind of, took on its own life of its own. And one thing that I think that we didn't realize initially was the responsibility we had as hunters and outdoorsmen to be authentic about it, but also to who we were reaching. Because I think the majority of people who went on our website or our social media or whatever it may be, I'd say 70% of them have never hunted before. They're hockey fans. They're hockey fans, and they're like, oh, this is cool, like cool design, whatever it is. So they had no idea about the outdoors or hunting or fishing, whatever. And so we didn't realize the responsibility I think we had of educating, portraying, showing that side. And so we've had so many people reach out and go, hey man, how do we get into this hunting thing? What do you do to start? I want to do this. That was totally lost on us. And I think after a little bit of time there, we realized that, hey, that this is something that we could, use to kind of maybe push the needle in the right direction a little bit. So that's been fun. And we've connected with people like you. We've connected with some Eastman guys, but so we've been able to kind of connect with some good people in the industry. But I think that's a little bit more of our goal now, is to maybe move the needle in the right direction.
Bring awareness. Has there been any negative pushback from your
100%.
fans?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And that's just the way that, people are like, oh, you post these pictures with, you behind this animal. But I think, that's only like the point, that's like the tiny little fraction of the whole thing. And we've tried to show that or say that, that, there's a lot more to it than that. And I think most people are open to it. I've got into conversations with people online or like in person and whatnot, and say, hey, like there's a whole different side of it, and that's what we'd like to show. It's hard to do that,
Right.
but we like to move it that way, and we've got some pretty good response from it. And yeah, I think we're any positive light we can show on that, the hunting and outdoor side is a win for us.
Yeah. That's a worthy mission, man.
Yeah.
Because like to your point, there's a lot of your crowd that has no exposure to this and
Zero.
other than cliches,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Other than the stuff they've seen on their, like whatever, forever, the sticker on the back of the truck and the, whatever. So we're trying to, and I think it's in a lot of ways, the hunting community's moved in the right direction. And then in a lot of ways it hasn't. So like we're just trying to, I don't know, do our best to not screw it up.
Well, we share the same goal. That's my whole goal in life. Just try not to screw it up.
Try not to screw it up, right?
So what is your plan in terms of you're introducing your kids to this now? Are you starting to give them some exposure to it?
Yeah. So like that's a battle between my wife and I. My daughter's 4. And I'm like, hey, because she's like, it's funny because like she sees me go out and shoot my bow, and we got her little wood bow, and she's already like got good form down. She comes in and does like the thing, like she's already ready to go. And she's like, hey, Dad, when do I get the sharp arrows? When do I get the sharp right? And and I'm like, well, this year maybe I can. So we bought some property out in Utah here, and we have some game that come through, and my dad, this is another thing. Because I love it so much. My dad never grew up doing it, but I want to share it with him. So I took him on a bear hunt up in Maine. That was his first ever big game. He shot a bear out of the blind. And then last year he drew a tag for my unit on my place, and he shot his first deer. And so like, I'm ready to maybe bring my daughter. She's 4. So she'll be, almost 5 by the time hunting season comes around. And, we brought the deer back, like both my deer and my dad's deer back this year. And we processed them in my garage, and the kids were there, and I'm trying to share that with them. And so I'm ready to get her involved. I think my wife wants me to push it off a few years. Wow. But, the majority of the food we eat is wild game. And so they love it. And they're like, hey, what are we having tonight? Hey, Dad, tell me about, when you took this elk or this deer or this bear or whatever. So like, it's a story every time. And like, I've told the story, 100 times. I feel like Kevin Costner in Dances Wolf, like standing around the fire. So like, we told this
my favorite
story.
movie.
Exactly, right, me too. So like I've told this, 1,000 times here, but like they want to hear it every time. And I don't know, it's cool. I'm looking forward to sharing it with them, but I think we're, maybe a year or 2 away from really getting them involved.
You've got time, man. That's one of the things I started rushing myself a little too early. I remember taking my daughter when she was about at that age, elk hunting one evening in Montana.
Yeah.
She really enjoyed it, but let's be honest, we didn't get far from the truck.
Yeah.
And the most exciting thing that happened all night is we saw a grouse. But I will say this, just those little moments like that, she still remembers that. Like, cause I got her dressed up, and all her own stuff. Yeah. And even though like in my head, like, I guess we could have seen something technically, but most likely nothing was going to happen. We just went and sat by a wallow. And it was like 200 yards off the road. Yeah. I knew it was going to be easy, nice flat. And we looked at squirrels. We watched ant hills. We like played with pine cones. But
in your mind, that was a loss, but like in her mind, that was the best day ever.
Oh yeah, and she still remembers it. Like,
so that's cool.
I think it's just, again, like those just a bunch of little things adding up over time, and there's no rush. Like my son, who's going bear hunting now, I've probably pushed him more into it because he naturally really, really wanted to do it all the way back. He's always been obsessed with military, guns, bows, and hunting, and that's it, period. Like he wants to be a Navy SEAL. So
can't ask for more.
I got him a BB gun, and a bow, and he's just into it. There's just no question. But my daughter, I've just given her little tastes of it. and she could take it or leave it, but she does enjoy the time, So I just think those just get little wins, and if you get momentum,
Yeah,
then you kind of double down on it.
Yeah.
Like I did with my son Easton, who's like just obsessed with it. But I don't know, man. I'm still learning along the way too. Like I'm trying to introduce him. I just introduced him to golf the other day because I grew up golfing, and I think they all liked it. And I'm like, well,
That's
geez,
a good thing.
now
Yeah.
like, should I go buy them all clubs and join a golf course? Like I want, like it's, I think.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I'm just still trying to figure all that out.
Yeah.
Where can people find the project? Was it Marchand Mill?
Yeah, it's just so his last name is Marchand.
Okay.
M-A-R. So it's just it's Marsh, like M-A March.
Where can people? I think I found your YouTube channel earlier. It's just
Yep,
Mill.
Marchand Milko, yeah. Marchandmilko.com. We have some stuff on there, some videos on there, like our Instagram stuff, and we just tried to share it as much on that. We do. We have a little show that's on NESN, which is New England Sports Network. They picked it up, and like that kind of snowballed too. Is that we were making a couple of shows like as like fun stuff to release on YouTube. But like the first one's like Brad and I like we were at an archery shop called Reedy's in Massachusetts, and we're like doing some archery. We're terrible at that time too. We hadn't like figured out our bows and whatnot. But like, and then next thing you know, NESN calls and like, hey, we want to put it on TV. So we've had fun with that. Our season 2 is just about here done. We got one more episode, but that's been another kind of cool way to showcase of a couple things. We went up to Sig Sauer in New Hampshire. They're kind of like
I saw that. That looked fun.
Oh, it's so much fun. So like they've been kind of like a partner for us. They've been awesome. And so we've gone up there a couple times. We went skeet shooting. We did some paintball with some of our teammates, which people get a kick out of, and did some fly fishing on like the Green River or Deerfield River out in Mass. And so, yeah, we've gone out on the Cape and done some saltwater fishing. So it's just trying to expose people to it but also adding like the fun side of like locker room banter back and forth between guys, like kind of shooting the shit.
That's rad.
Yeah.
What, final question. What advice would you give to young men or women out there that have ambitions of doing what you did, which is go all in on pro sports?
This is a hard one. I've been asked this one, and it's kind of evolved over time, I think. But I think that like I guess it's kind of a 2-part thing. But if you don't set lofty goals, right, then like what's the point? I think that you should shoot for the stars, right? Every time. Say, hey, like at a young age, I used to write on the wall, like my favorite college I wanted to go to. I wanted to go to Michigan State, and like I hung a couple of NHL teams on the wall that like, hey, this was like, I don't know, 6-7 years old. Like this is on my wall. And so like, I always had that like kind of ambition and goal to play there. At that age, you just never know. But, and then the other part is like, it's not a bad thing to fail. I think you learn a lot more from that than you do success. And I think a lot of people, you fail and then it's like, all right, well, that didn't work out. Well, what's on to the next? It's okay. And probably going to benefit you a lot more than you think when you do fail. And to come out strong on the other side. So that's for me anyway, that's been the biggest impact.
That's fantastic, man. Well, people should listen because obviously you've done it right, and you've had an amazing life to 34 years old, and you got a long ways to go.
Yeah.
And I'm stoked for all your outdoor ventures, and I want to go hunting with you. So let's get that scheduled.
Come on up to Newfoundland. Let's do it.
Dude,
seriously,
be careful because I will be on a plane.
Come on up. Seriously. We would love to have you. That's why we got it. That's why we got it. Like that, at that point now we're like, we have the SIG guys coming up this year. We got 3 guys coming up. They're going to like come moose hunting with us. Like, and we wanted to bring people up that we that we like can go hunting with and enjoy the time around and like make it more about just sharing experiences with people than putting the line in your pocket. So if we can keep the lights on and keep things going, like that's all we're going for. So you're more than welcome to. We'd love to have you.
I'll probably see you this fall then.
I leave September 29th.
And I appreciate all your support. And let's do this again, man. That was a really fun conversation.
Absolutely. It'd be awesome.
All the best to your family, and let's stay in touch here.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me on.
See you later, everybody.